Yes, everybody, another day. Viewership, subscribers. The great James Store once more put out a challenge to all of those origin of lives, PhDs, you know, trying to come up with all kind of uh, methodologies to explain the origin of life. And many of them said time frame when they think that they would create life in the lab. You know, the million-year experiment is about doing the same thing. Speculating and hypothesizing about what the original environment was. And come up with use up some electricity and all of these little things and create fuel, amino acid in a jar, and then racemic. They are racemic, not even pure left-handed. Because left-handed molecules are very essential to life itself, and not even so. It was not a great accomplishment of such. We're close in creating life. A lot of people appeal to that, and one of the things that people must understand: the million-year experiment is not. If you assume that these are the ingredients that were, or the elements that were on the earth during that time, pre-biological time, and then by some great forces of nature, just take whatsoever it is, the elements, and just create the first prokaryotic cell, a single cell where all living things come from. What they call it? They call it last universal common ancestor. they didn't do that. What they do is to involve directly and willfully and intentionally involve intelligent input. These professor and his student get to the hard work, put things into place, and do the little tweaking here and there, trying to make it seem like they can get. This is how hurt started life, but the hurt, there's a total difference. The hurt by itself, by what? Some lightning, thunder, whatsoever other naturally seen elements, just can whip up life like that, put all the necessary ingredients and molecules together, and then bam, life appears. No. And the million-year experiment was just to demonstrate and illustrate that's how it happened back then. But the big difference is that these guys are using strictly intelligent input, while I heard, because the molecules, according to James Store, has no sense, have no brain, they don't move towards life. It takes life and intelligence to make life. That's as simple as that. No, I understand why James Store don't want to associate himself so much with ID movement and Christian movement, because they don't want these other scientists to judge him based on, and even though it comes strictly with science, strictly the science, no talk about no God. They can't confront him. They can't stand up with him. They can't argue with him rationally and logically. So what they do? They use a lot of ad hominems. Oh, well, you're a creationist. Well, you're highly intelligent design movement, and intelligent design movement and creationists. They're not true scientists, because they believe too much in this supernatural being, and science and God are totally diametrically opposing. That's, you want to judge him based on that, even though he didn't say anything about any of these things. He does not associate himself with the ID movement or younger creationist or creationism, right? There's another side where you have to go to deal with him, but when he's talking as a scientist, always put forth his scientific, you know, challenges. This is it. This is it, science. Prove that to me. Show me where I'm wrong. If you prove that to me and show me where I'm wrong, I will concede. But they can't. Life is a mystery. Life is not something that can be answered by naturalistic means. Ars longa vita brevis. It's a Latin word meaning man, life is short and human life is too short. And science will ever be there. Science will ever be there. But young generation is there to take over from those who will die off trying to solve these mysteries that are not scientifically capable of being answered. No one will ever figure out how life started. James Tour, as a scientist, they can't prove. He said he can't prove the negative. No one can prove the universal negative unless one is an omniscient being like God. You have to search every nanometer of the universe to prove the universal negative. So that's why I always say, you can't say, as a scientist, you can't say we'll never achieve that. We'll never be able to find out how could life come to be and all of these things, and give illustration all the time. If someone, in the time of Jesus, or the time of Nero, or any during the time period that he said once, one day we're going to go to the moon. We're going to go to the moon. We're going to send space shuttles out there in the exosphere, and we can even stay up there and look down on the earth itself. And they will say, "What? You're crazy. It never happened. Never happened." Takes a lot of years for that to achieve, though. But that's the whole point. Probably the solution will out. Let's put it this way: human life probably can't keep up with probably the time it would take to answer some of these questions. But I'm saying that life, it doesn't matter if you live another zillion years, no man will ever discover how life came to be. I'm not a scientist, so I can't talk that way. You know why? Because life is not something that is naturalistically proven. You can't, it didn't come to be by naturalistic cause, but a supernatural cause it came to be. That's why I hear people talking about first cell, what they call the last universal common ancestor. I don't believe in those kind of stuff, man. There is no first cell that eventually become many cell, eukaryotic cell. There is no first cell. Life came to be as a system with everything intact. So all of those talking about which come first, the chicken or the egg, and all of these things, everything was in the system to make it alive, simultaneously there. There was no naturalistic incremental development, or from the single cell to multi-cell organism and all those over trillion of years and all that. Those are just desperate maneuvering, to explain, even though you don't know, but you're coming up with some kind of explanation that doesn't even make any sense, man. They just violate common sense, violate the law of logic. It just doesn't make any sense. So instead of saying that a supernatural, all-powerful, intelligent being created life, They just hold on to this belief that nature, the mindless, purposeless, physics and chemistry produces life. They can't produce life. Need intelligence and purpose, intentionality. So James Stewart came out and challenged them based upon several challenges, and he put it forth, and nobody has solved the carbohydrate polymerization problem. Nobody. Tell you all different ways and trillions of ways carbohydrates can link up together, and but look how simple it is for how it can link up in our body without any mistake. A lot taking place in our body as we speak, as we move about, and without any cognizance of the complexity of the operation that takes place for me to move and see and to do all of these things. It's amazing. Nobody has solved the nucleotide polymerization problem. Nobody. It's incredible when you look on it, man. Incredible. The longest letter you can find in the universe is inside of us. The longest. And 3 billion nucleotides build this word, make up this word. 3 billion alphabets. Nobody solved the polymer stability problem when dealing with single molecules. Time is an enemy. Time is an enemy to organic chemistry and RNA, DNA. Nobody has explained how the requisite protein folding could have occurred. The folding of protein, man, is mysterious. If the folding, if the improper amino acid, if one amino acid is misplaced, a substitution, that's one of the genetic substitution. If one, that protein will never fold properly. There'll be some problem. And you have protein, chaperone protein. You have so many different protein have to play a role in protein formation, the folding of protein. It's incredible. How can someone look on this complex operation and not say it has to be some infinitely wise and powerful being? But instead, evolution. Naturalistic progression of blind forces, mindless forces come together and produce these things. Nobody has explained how the requisite interaction could be prepared. The linkage. Nobody solved the core problem of all the nucleotides and saccharides, protein, if those come first. Nobody has made any of the higher order structure needed for the simplest cell. Nobody can make them. You can dismantle a cell, but you can't put back things as though they were to make the cell function as a cell anymore. And the complex connection, multiple complex connection of protein in order for an organism to work, for you to be alive. And new information is coming out on protein right now. New information is saying that protein is not the code for life. You know, it's not it's not the sine qua non for life. Talk about the DNA code for now. There are new information coming out now that the DNA is just one of the several link in the network of living things. Genes, you know, everywhere spread out over your body and communicate. You know, one gene turn off that and another gene turn that on. You know, so people are focusing on DNA. You know, they realize that DNA is not the sole guy here when it come on to life. Your whole body is fundamental for you to be who you are. Your whole body, not just your DNA and RNA. Your whole living art, the whole system, the whole genome. When I look at James Webb Telescope that take about 30 years to build, think about $15 billion. It take that long because they have to deal with a lot of problem, and you know, as a building something, no problem pop up on all of these things. So it could have taken less time than that, but nonetheless, it took over 30 years to build, and it's one of the most complex things human being has ever built. Probably most complex thing human being has ever built. Very intricately built, very sophisticatedly built. It was a genius. This thing is a product of prodigious. I'm telling you. Now you take all of those parts and you leave them to time. Leave it to time. And I give you billions upon billions upon billions upon billions upon trillions of years. You think that will ever come to be? You think we'll come together to self-assemble and come together? Look at it. Why people like to believe that time, given enough time, anything is possible. Why they require so much time for anything to be? Why? Why do people love to project so much? You know, given enough time, we'll find this out. Given enough time, we'll that's it. The time, the gap of time argument. The gap of time. You always come with the God of the gap, but the time gap or the gap of time argument, man, it doesn't make any sense, man. One of the most complex thing ever built on the face of the earth, if not the most complex thing ever built on the face of the James Webb Telescope, and it only takes 30 years. It is the brainchild of several scientists that work together collectively. Bring all that they know. Each one has his own skill and expertise and prodigy, and bring it together and build this thing. A lot of brain power. But it didn't take millions and billions and trillions of years. And look how this thing is complex. It requires commonsensically It requires intelligence, man. It requires intelligence to do science, to do anything. Don't, no matter how simple it is. Do not give credit to any naturalistic force for creating anything. It can't create anything. Sun and the moon, the storms and thunder and lightning and tornado can't create anything. If all of these things work together, they can't create, and these things will destroy. They burn down things, destroy things. They can't create anything. So why do people believe that? Just because you don't want to say God? You appeal to nonsense? Come on, man. Why is God such a terror to people? Why is he such a terror? Even though you know, intuitively, instinctively, you know within yourself. But yet, you rather meteor from outer space bring some amino acids and all of these things. And I tell you that even if they bring some amino acid from outer space, not left on the amino acids, always is just a mixture and a lot of impurities. These people work in the lab, intelligent people who work in the lab to take molecules and turn molecules into something. And it's very difficult for the things that they do. And it have to work on a meticulous, pure environment for them to do certain things, for the reaction and the healing and all of these things. And then you gonna tell me about these things that they achieve in the laboratory, pure environments, can be also achievable in an environment with dirt, rock and stone and bacteria and fungi and all of these things. Really now? Come on, man. It's not gonna be, man. Don't. It's a violation of common sense. The violation for basic intuition. Can never do that. Everything that we see around us, structures and complex structures and buildings, and they came about by intelligence. But the writer of the ID, intelligent design movement, as non-scientific, they are not true scientists, and they won't take their hypotheses or their work seriously because they appeal to. A matter of fact, intelligent design does not necessarily directly, even though it implies, but they didn't come out and say God of such. They leave that up to the audience, in which I don't think they should, but that's what they do. They leave it up to you. That all it's saying is intelligent. Many don't really want to say that God is that intelligent, but they said there has to be telesis. There has to be intentionality, rationality, intelligence. Right? It has to be. The creation movement, creationism, a lot of scientists now is, by what the James Webb Telescope is the information that is sending back to the scientists. You know, the best worldview that makes sense of those information is creationism, because the God that created the universe, there's a God that created the universe, and He created orderly and rationally, law-like, and than the secular universe, the secular scientist, the secular worldview of naturalistic materialism. You know, everything is about billions of years, and everything is about the Big Bang. And bit by bit, the James Webb Telescope is destroying the whole standard model of the Big Bang, tearing it apart bit by bit. Every little information is sent back. It's always contradict their whole Big Bang hypothesis, you know, and reveal confirmation that support creationism. You see what I'm saying? Nobody can take away the intellectual property of God. Nobody can take it away. Doesn't matter what they say, they can't take it away. It's God. It's God's brainchild. It is His intellectual property, and nobody will take it away from Him. And take time and reveal little information that you're revealing to the scientific community, to the scientific instrumentality or scientific equipment that they use to try to prove the universe as some product of cosmic evolution is backfiring on them rapidly every day. And instead of saying, you know what, as far as you're seeing things now, things is turning out, there has to be a God now. They come up with all kind of hypotheses. All kind of hypotheses that makes no sense. No sense whatsoever. They'll rather invent or generate some explanation that is so irrational and absurd that to the point of risibility, to just laugh. It must be some part of being a stand-up comedian, man, to inside joke or, you know, prompt people to laugh or something, because just because you don't want to say there has to be some supernatural being that create all of this. It just doesn't make any sense. To say otherwise, it's a brutal violation of the most basic human intuition. And all of those challenges that James Stewart put out to all of those scientists, let me see who's going to come out and try to prove otherwise. Who's going to come out and contradict him? And then Jason Lies put forth a proposal contradicting the whole idea about an expanding universe. And if the universe is expanding, there's no Big Bang. He's saying that the universe is not expanding. It's static. The elements within the universe are moving, but space remains static. So it's not stretching and moving apart and pulling everything with it as it stretches. You write a preview paper. Write one of those technical paper for peer preview. And we see what's going to happen. And make many predictions that came to pass. And so this one now, we're going to see. I think either he wrote it already or he's going to write it, but you have to kind of write it in such a way to leave out many things that have to do with God and stuff like that, because they don't want, they think, even though there's an intelligent man, scientist, astrophysicist writing this paper, and if they put too much of anything in about supernatural God or anything like that, they're still gonna look at it and want to downplay it and say, this is not good science, this is not true. So I have no time to look on this, and just brush it aside and dismiss it. So just strictly science, and they look into it and see, and I'm waiting for their response. The responses of regarding this, because it's going to rock the world. Going to rock the world, man. The mystery of life is not something that you can solve by science. Just as the universe, they can't tell you. None of the science can tell you how the universe come to be, but yet you have people here pushing out some, trying to come up with some hypotheses like many worlds or many. There were many universes before, and then luckily this popped into existence by some kind of unknown mechanism. The multiverse, and all kind of they come up with all kind of stuff, man, to just, and even though science, what they see seems antithetical to their expectation. Doesn't matter. I'm gonna hold on to this. Oh man. So people, James Storr set out a challenge unto the naturalistic scientific community. Several of them put them out there. Let me see which one gonna take up these challenges, man. Answer these questions and prove James Storr wrong. And let me see who's gonna take on Jason Lie's proposal that the universe is expanding. And if the universe is not expanding, there was no Big Bang. Let's see who's gonna come up with a better explanation or counter argument to these challenges. Remember to subscribe. Oh no.